The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for nearly a mile in every direction. Thousands of seats rose in circular rows around a central platform where speakers addressed the assembly. Representatives from over 300 species filled those seats, their bodies ranging from insect-like creatures with dozens of eyes to massive beings made of living crystal. This was the heart of galactic civilization, where the fate of empires was decided through debate and diplomacy. Ambassador Zorvith of the Kelthori stood at the central platform, his forearms gesturing as he spoke. The Kelthari were tall beings with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They had served as one of the founding species of the Council for over 10,000 years. "Fellow Council members," Zorvith said, his voice carried by translation devices to every ear in the chamber. "We have received formal contact from the species known as humans. They have requested permission to send a diplomatic vessel to our station." A murmur passed through the assembly. Most species here had heard of humans. They were a young race, merely a few thousand years into their civilization. They had only discovered faster than light travel within the last century. By galactic standards, they were infants. High Councilor Mithrai listened from his elevated seat above the main floor. He was the oldest being in the chamber, having lived for over 300 years. His species, the Then, were known for their wisdom and their long memories. Mithrai had seen many young species join the council. Most of them followed predictable patterns. They arrived eager and nervous, grateful for protection, willing to accept whatever terms the council offered. But Mithrai had studied the humans carefully. Something about them troubled him. "What do we know of these humans?" asked Ambassador Krillax of the Vorn hegemony. The Vorn were a military species, their society built around conquest and strength. Krillax was a large creature covered in thick gray scales, his yellow eyes scanning the chamber with barely hidden contempt. Zorvith activated a display that showed images of Earth and its colonies. They are a relatively weak species physically. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. They have established colonies on 7 worlds within their local region of space. Their military forces are small compared to any major council power. Laughter rippled through certain sections of the chamber. The idea of such a primitive species requesting audience with the council seemed amusing to many. But Mithrai did not laugh. He had read the intelligence reports that others had ignored. He had learned about human history, about their wars and their revolutions. And he had noticed something that made his old hearts beat faster with concern. "I would advise caution," Mithrai said, his voice quiet but carrying throughout the chamber. "I have studied these humans. Their history contains certain patterns that we should consider carefully." Krillax snorted. "What patterns?" "They are a fractured species. They spend most of their time fighting among themselves over trivial matters. They pose no threat to anyone." "That is precisely what concerns me," Mithrai replied. "When humans fight among themselves, they do so with limited goals. Territory, resources, political power. But when they unite against an external enemy, something changes. They do not simply seek victory. They seek the complete destruction of their opponent's ability to ever threaten them again." The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then Zorvith waved one of his hands dismissively. "With respect, High Councilor, they are a young species with primitive weapons. Whatever their intentions might be, they lack the capability to threaten any established power." Mithrai wanted to argue further, but he could see that the council was not interested in his warnings. They had made up their minds about humanity. These were small, weak creatures who should be grateful for the council's attention. "Very well," Mithrai said. "Let them come." 2 weeks later, the human vessel Starbound Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the council station. It was a small ship by galactic standards, barely 300 meters long. Council patrol vessels surrounded it immediately, scanning its weapons and defenses. Captain Nathan Cole stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the massive station grow larger in the view screen. He was a man in his early 40s with short brown hair and calm gray eyes. He had served in the human military for 20 years before being selected for this mission. "They are hailing us," reported Lieutenant Amy Lawson from the communications station. She was younger than Cole, with red hair pulled back in a practical style. Her job was to serve as his diplomatic attaché, helping him navigate the complex politics of the council. "Put them through," Cole said. A Kelthari face appeared on the screen. "Human vessel, you are cleared to dock at Bay 17. You will be escorted to the council chamber for your formal presentation. Do you understand these instructions?" "We understand," Cole replied. "Thank you for your welcome." The connection ended. Lawson raised an eyebrow. "That was brief." "They don't think much of us," Cole said. "That's fine. We're not here to impress them. We're here to establish relations and protect our interests." The docking procedure went smoothly. Cole and Lawson were met by a group of Kelthari guards who led them through endless corridors filled with alien species. Many of those species stopped to stare at the humans. Some pointed and whispered. Others simply looked away with disinterest. The council chamber was even more impressive in person than Cole had expected. He had seen images, but nothing prepared him for the sheer scale of it. Thousands of alien beings watched as he walked to the central platform. Zorvith greeted them formally. "Welcome, representatives of humanity. The Galactic Council recognizes your species and grants you the opportunity to speak." Cole cleared his throat. He had prepared a speech, full of diplomatic language and careful phrases. But looking out at the assembly, seeing the amusement and condescension in so many eyes, he decided to speak plainly instead. "Thank you for receiving us," he said. "Humanity seeks peaceful relations with the Council and its member species. We want trade, cultural exchange, and mutual respect. We do not seek protection or patronage. We are capable of defending ourselves and managing our own affairs." A ripple of surprise passed through the chamber. Young species did not usually speak with such confidence. Krillax leaned forward in his seat. "You speak of defending yourselves. Against what? You have no enemies that we are aware of." Cole met the Vorn ambassador's eyes steadily. "We hope to keep it that way. But if anyone chooses to become our enemy, they will find that humanity takes such matters very seriously." High Councilor Methrai watched this exchange with growing unease. He could see that the other council members viewed Cole's words as empty boasting. But Methrai saw something different in the human's eyes. He saw absolute certainty. The vote was held quickly. Humanity was admitted to the council as a minor species with limited trading rights. They would be allowed to establish an embassy and participate in certain economic activities. But they would have no voice in council decisions and no claim to significant territory beyond their current holdings. Cole accepted these terms without complaint. He knew that humanity's status would not be determined by votes in this chamber. It would be determined by actions. When the time came as he left the council chamber, Methri approached him quietly. "Captain Cole, may I offer you some advice?" Cole nodded respectfully. "Of course, High Councilor." "Be careful," Methrai said softly. "There are those on this council who see your species as easy prey. They may test you sooner than you expect." Cole studied the old alien's face for a long moment. "Thank you for the warning, High Councilor. I hope for everyone's sake that no such test ever comes. Because if it does, those who test us may not enjoy the results." Methray watched the humans walk away. He believed them, and that belief kept him awake for many nights to come. 6 months passed after humanity joined the Galactic Council. In that time, human merchants began appearing at trading stations throughout the region. Human scientists attended academic conferences. Human tourists visited alien worlds with wide eyes and curious questions. To most council species, humanity seemed like any other young civilization finding its place in the galaxy. But in the dark halls of the Vorn hegemony, different plans were being made. General Krathel stood before a holographic display showing the human colony on Kepler 442b. The planet was rich in rare minerals and had a breathable atmosphere. 50,000 humans lived there, mostly miners and their families. The colony was protected by a small defense force of 3 frigates and a few ground installations. "This is our opportunity," Krathel said to the assembled Vorn commanders. "The humans are weak. They have no allies. The Council will not intervene in a matter between a major power and a minor species. We take this colony, we gain valuable resources, and we send a message to other young species about the cost of arrogance." One of the younger commanders raised a concern. "General, what about the human response? They may retaliate." Krathel laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. "With what? Their entire fleet is smaller than the force we will send to take one colony. They will protest. They will complain to the Council. And then they will accept reality. That is how the galaxy works." The Vorn High Command approved the operation unanimously. 40 warships were assembled and sent toward Kepler 442b. Commander Greg Holt was eating dinner with his family when the alert came. His wife Maria looked up with worried eyes as he read the message on his personal device. Their 2 children, ages 8 and 12, continued eating, unaware that their world was about to change. "What is it?" Maria asked quietly. Holt took a deep breath. "Vorn fleet incoming. 40 ships. They will be here in 6 hours." Maria's face went pale. She knew the numbers as well as he did. 3 frigates against 40 warships. There was no way to win that fight. "Take the children to the underground shelter," Holt said. "Make sure everyone in the residential district knows to evacuate below ground." "What are you going to do?" Holt stood up and kissed his wife's forehead. "My job." 2 hours later, Holt stood on the bridge of the frigate Resolute, watching the Vorn fleet drop out of faster than light travel at the edge of the system. The other 2 frigates, Defiant and Steadfast, held position beside him. Their captains, Lisa Monroe and Jack Davis, appeared on his view screen. "Orders, Commander?" Monroe asked. Her voice was calm despite the impossible odds they faced. "We hold position until all civilians are underground," Holt replied. "Then we make them pay for every inch." Davis nodded grimly. "Understood. It's been an honor serving with you both." The Vorn flagship broadcast a message across all frequencies. General Krathel's scarred face appeared on every screen in the system. "Human defenders, this is General Krathel of the Vorn hegemony. Your colony now belongs to us. You will surrender immediately, and we will allow your civilians to evacuate. Resist, and we will destroy everything." Holt opened the reply channel. His crew watched him with steady eyes. They knew they were going to die today, but they also knew why they were here. "General Krathel," Holt said slowly, "this is Commander Greg Holt of the Kepler Colonial Defense Force. I have a counteroffer for you. Turn your ships around and leave this system. We do not want war with the Vorn, but if you attack our people, you will start something that you cannot finish. I suggest you reconsider." Krathel's laughter filled the channel. 3 ships against 40, and you speak of threats. Human, you amuse me, but my patience has limits. You have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we destroy your ships and take the colony by force." The channel closed. Holt turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to Earth. Priority 1, all channels, no encryption. Tell them Kepler is under attack. Tell them to send everything." The message went out at faster than light speeds. It would reach Earth in approximately 4 hours. Any response would take at least 2 weeks to arrive. Holt and his people would be long dead by then. But that was not the point. The point was to make sure Earth knew what had happened here. The point was to make sure the Vorn understood what they had started. The hour passed in tense silence. Holt used the time to ensure all civilians were underground in hardened shelters. 48,000 people huddled in the darkness below the colony, waiting for fate to decide their future. When the deadline expired, the Vorn fleet advanced. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. The Resolute and Steadfast were destroyed in the opening exchange, their crews fighting to the last moment. The Defiant, badly damaged, made a final run at the Vorn flagship. Captain Monroe aimed her crippled ship directly at Crathel's command vessel. She almost made it. A Vorn destroyer intercepted her at the last second, destroying the Defiant in a massive explosion that also crippled the destroyer. Monroe and her crew died knowing they had cost the enemy dearly. Commander Holt died on the Resolute's bridge, still giving orders as the ship broke apart around him. His last transmission was not a cry of despair or a plea for mercy. It was a simple statement of fact. Remember this day. Remember what you have done here, and understand that there will be consequences. General Crathel dismissed the words as empty threats from a dying man. He ordered his ground forces to occupy the colony and secure the mining facilities. The underground shelters were located but not breached. Crathel decided to use the civilians as leverage in negotiations with the human government. He sent a message to Earth, informing them that Kepler-442b was now under Vorn control. He offered to release the civilians in exchange for formal recognition of Vorn, sovereignty over the planet, and a substantial payment in resources. The message arrived on Earth 3 days later. Admiral Linda Vance was in her office when the news reached her. She was a woman in her late 50s with iron gray hair and sharp blue eyes. She had served in the human military for 35 years. Rising to command the 1st Expeditionary Fleet, her ships were the most powerful weapons humanity possessed. She read the report from Kepler 3 times. She watched the recordings of the battle, including Commander Holt's final transmission. She reviewed the casualty lists, the names of everyone who had died defending the colony. Then she called her senior staff together. "The Vorn have made a mistake," she said quietly. "They think we will negotiate. They think we will accept terms. They think we are like the other species in this galaxy, willing to trade lives for convenience." She stood and walked to a large display showing the current position of her fleet. "In 2 weeks, we will show them how wrong they are. We will show the entire galaxy what happens when you kill our people and threaten our children. There will be no negotiation. There will be no terms. There will only be consequences." Her officers nodded grimly. They understood what was coming. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Far away on Kepler-442b, 48,000 civilians waited in underground darkness. They did not know if rescue was coming. They did not know if anyone had heard their cry for help. But deep in their hearts, they believed. They believed that humanity would not abandon them. They believed that somewhere, someone was preparing a response. And they believed that whoever had attacked their home would soon learn a terrible lesson about the cost of making enemies of the human race. The 1st Expeditionary Fleet departed from Earth orbit on a gray Tuesday morning. 72 warships moved in perfect formation, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. These were not patrol vessels or defensive platforms. These were weapons of war, built for one purpose and one purpose only. Admiral Linda Vance stood on the bridge of her flagship, the carrier Vengeance. Around her, officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. There was no celebration, no excitement. The mood was cold and focused, like surgeons preparing for a difficult operation. "Fleet status?" Vance asked. "All ships report ready, Admiral," replied Captain Sam Warren, her executive officer. "We will reach Kepler in 18 days at maximum speed." "Reduce that to 14, Vance ordered. "Push the engines harder. I want those civilians out of the ground as soon as possible." Warren hesitated. "Admiral, that pace will strain our fuel reserves. We may not have enough for extended operations afterward." Vance turned to look at him with cold eyes. "There won't be extended operations. This will be quick. Make it happen." The fleet accelerated. Meanwhile, on the Vorn homeworld, General Krathel was celebrating his victory. The High Command had promoted him for his successful conquest of the human colony. He was being praised as a hero who had shown the young species their place in the galaxy. High General Mordak, Supreme Commander of all Vorn military forces, reviewed the intelligence reports with growing satisfaction. The humans had sent several angry messages demanding the return of their colony and their people. They had complained to the Galactic Council. They had threatened consequences, but they had not done anything. 2 weeks had passed since the battle, and human space remained quiet. No fleet movements had been detected. No military buildup had been observed. "They are afraid," Mordock concluded. "They know they cannot match our power. Soon they will accept our terms and pay us to return their worthless civilians." None of the Vorn intelligence officers noticed the small human ship that had slipped into their territory 3 weeks earlier. It carried no weapons, broadcast no signals, and stayed far from any populated areas. Its crew of 6 people spent their time watching, listening, and recording. Daniel Perry was the leader of this team. He was a thin man with forgettable features, exactly the kind of person who could disappear into any crowd. He worked for Human Intelligence Services, and his job was to know things that enemies wanted to keep secret. For the past 3 weeks, his team had mapped every Vorn military installation within reach. They had identified shipyards, weapons factories, command centers, and communication hubs. They had tracked fleet movements and recorded defensive positions. All of this information had been transmitted back to Admiral Vance in tiny, encrypted bursts that the Vorn never detected. "That's the last major target," Perry said quietly, marking a massive orbital station on his display. "We have everything we need." His communications officer, a young woman named Rachel Torres, looked up from her station. "Admiral Vance is requesting confirmation. The fleet arrives at Kepler in 3 days." Barry nodded. "Tell her we're ready. All targets confirmed and prioritized." 3 days later, the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at Kepler-442b. General Krathel was eating his morning meal when the alarm reached him. He rushed to his command center, certain there had been some mistake. The report said 72 human warships had appeared in the system. That was impossible. Human ships were small and primitive. Their entire military could not field such a force, but the sensors did not lie. The human fleet hung in space like an angry swarm, their weapons already charging. Krathel opened a communication channel. "Human Commander, this is General Krathel. We hold 48,000 of your civilians. If you attack, they will die." Admiral Vance's face appeared on his screen. Her expression was completely calm, almost peaceful. That calmness frightened Krathel more than any threat could have. "General, your ground forces will release all civilian hostages immediately and surrender themselves into human custody. Your ships will power down their weapons and prepare for boarding. You have 5 minutes to comply." Krathel snarled. "You are in no position to make demands. I have 40 warships. I will destroy your colony and everyone in it if you do not withdraw." Vance simply nodded to someone off-screen. "Time starts now." The channel closed. Krathel immediately ordered his ships into battle formation. He had 40 warships, experienced crews, and the determination of Vorn warriors. He would teach these humans a lesson they would never forget. The battle began at exactly the 5-minute mark. Human tactics were unlike anything the Vorn had ever encountered. Council species fought with caution, preserving their ships, seeking advantageous positions. They viewed each vessel as valuable, each crew as irreplaceable. The humans attacked with overwhelming concentrated force. They ignored defensive formations and struck directly at key targets. Their weapons were more powerful than expected, their coordination more precise. They moved as a single organism, each ship knowing exactly where to be and when. Within the first hour, 20 Vorn ships had been destroyed. Within 2 hours, the number was 35. Krathel tried to organize a retreat to save what remained of his fleet. Admiral Vance did not allow it. Human destroyers moved to cut off every escape route. Damaged Vorn vessels were not captured or disabled. They were destroyed completely, their crews given no chance to surrender or flee. The message was clear and terrible. By the 6th hour, it was over. All 40 Vorn warships had been eliminated. General Krathel died on his flagship's bridge when human missiles tore through its hull. On the ground, Vorn soldiers received word of the fleet's destruction. They expected the humans to negotiate for the civilians. Instead, human dropships descended from orbit, carrying thousands of ground troops. The battle for the colony was brief and brutal. Human soldiers showed no mercy to any Vorn who resisted. Those who surrendered were taken prisoner, but many Vorn chose to fight rather than accept the shame of capture. They died where they stood. Within 12 hours, Kepler 442b was fully liberated. 48,000 civilians emerged from underground shelters to find human soldiers waiting for them with food, water, and medical supplies. Admiral Vance personally oversaw the evacuation of wounded civilians to hospital ships. She said little, her face revealing nothing of her thoughts. But those who knew her could see the cold fire still burning in her eyes. This was not over. This was just the beginning. On the Vorn homeworld, High General Mordek received reports of the disaster at Kepler. He could not believe what he was reading. An entire fleet destroyed in 6 hours. No survivors. No ships captured. Complete annihilation. He immediately ordered a second fleet assembled. 100 warships this time, twice the force the humans had brought to Kepler. He would crush these arrogant creatures and teach them the cost of defying the Vorn hegemony. The second fleet departed for Kepler. Confident in their overwhelming numbers, they never arrived. Daniel Perry's intelligence had given Admiral Vance everything she needed. She knew where the second fleet would pass through, the course they would take, the timing of their journey. The human fleet was waiting for them. The second battle was even shorter than the first. Human forces struck from ambush, targeting command ships and communications vessels first. Without coordination, the Vorn fleet fell into chaos. Without leadership, their superior numbers meant nothing. 87 ships were destroyed. 30 managed to flee back toward Vorn space, their crews carrying tales of horror to anyone who would listen. Admiral Vance did not pursue the survivors. She wanted them to deliver her message. She gathered her fleet and set course for Vorn space. The liberation of Kepler had been Phase 1. Now Phase 2 would begin. The humans were not coming to defeat the Vorn military. They were coming to erase it from existence. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives from dozens of species shouted over each other, their voices creating a wall of noise that echoed off the ancient walls. Emergency sessions were rare, but this situation demanded immediate attention. The Vorn hegemony had formally requested council intervention. Their ambassador, Krillax, stood at the central platform with barely controlled rage burning in his yellow eyes. "This is an unprovoked attack on a sovereign council member," Krillax roared. "The humans have destroyed 140 of our warships. They have killed tens of thousands of our warriors. They must be stopped. Ambassador Zorvith of the Kelthari raised his hands for silence. The council recognizes the severity of this situation. We have summoned the human representative to explain their actions. Captain Nathan Cole entered the chamber with Commander Katie Marsh at his side. He had been promoted to full ambassador after the Kepler incident, his calm demeanor during the initial contact having impressed certain council members. Now he walked to the central platform with steady steps, ignoring the hostile stares from many directions. Ambassador Cole, Zorvith said formally, "The Vorn hegemony has accused humanity of aggressive warfare. They claim you have attacked their ships without provocation and are now advancing toward their home territory. How do you respond?" Cole stood silently for a moment, looking around the chamber. He saw fear in some eyes, anger in others, and curiosity in a few. High Councilor Methry watched from his elevated seat with an expression that might have been sorrow. "Without provocation," Cole repeated slowly. "That is an interesting choice of words." He nodded to Commander Marsh, who activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the platform, showing the battle at Kepler from the perspective of the colony's sensors. 6 weeks ago, 40 Vorn warships attacked our colony at Kepler 442b. They destroyed 3 human vessels defending that colony. They killed 4,000 of our people in the initial assault, including Commander Greg Holt, Captain Lisa Monroe, Captain Jack Davis, and their crews. The images shifted to show the underground shelters, crowded with frightened civilians. They took 48,000 of our civilians hostage, including approximately 600 children. They used these hostages as leverage, demanding that humanity pay tribute for their return. Cole's voice remained calm, but something hard and cold had entered his eyes. The Vorn did not consult the council before this attack. They did not seek permission or declare their intentions. They simply decided that humanity was weak enough to prey upon without consequence. Krillax interrupted angrily. This was a territorial dispute. Such matters are handled through negotiation, not genocide. Genocide? Cole turned to face the Vorn ambassador directly. "We have not harmed a single Vorn civilian. We have not attacked any non-military target. We have specifically avoided any action that would harm those who were not directly involved in the attack on our people." He paused, letting his words sink in. "What we have done is destroy every Vorn military vessel that has engaged our forces. We have done this efficiently and completely. And yes, we intend to continue until the Vorn military no longer has the capability to threaten our people." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Ambassador Zorvith struggled to maintain order. "Ambassador Cole, council law requires proportional response in matters of conflict. You have already destroyed far more ships than you lost. Surely this is sufficient." Cole shook his head slowly. "With respect, Ambassador, your concept of proportional response is why this situation exists in the first place." Commander Marsh activated another display. This one showed historical records from human history, images and data that made many council members uncomfortable. "Throughout our history," Cole explained, "humanity has learned hard lessons about the cost of half measures in war. When we defeated enemies but left them capable of rebuilding, they often returned stronger and more dangerous. When we showed mercy to those who had shown us none, that mercy was frequently repaid with fresh attacks." The display showed ancient cities burned and rebuilt, wars fought and refought across generations, cycles of violence that consumed millions of lives. So we developed a different approach. When diplomacy fails, when peaceful options are exhausted, when we are forced into conflict against our will, we do not seek to win battles. We seek to ensure that our enemy can never threaten us again. High Councilor Methry finally spoke, his ancient voice cutting through the noise of the chamber. You speak of permanent solutions, Ambassador. But what you describe sounds like the extinction of your enemies. Cole turned to face the old alien with something like respect in his eyes. Not extinction, High Councilor. The Vorn people will survive. Their civilization will continue. But their ability to wage aggressive war against other species will be eliminated. Completely and permanently. And how do you determine when that goal has been achieved? Methrui asked. When every warship is destroyed. When every weapons factory is dismantled. When every military command structure is eliminated. When the Vorn hegemony, as a military power, ceases to exist. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Even Krillax seemed unable to find words. Ambassador Zorvith gathered himself. The Council cannot permit this. We will vote to demand an immediate ceasefire. All parties will negotiate under Council supervision. Cole nodded politely. You are welcome to vote as you see fit. Humanity will abstain. You would defy the Council's decision? We would remind the Council that we are a sovereign species, not a subject state. We did not start this war. We did not choose this conflict. The Vorn made that choice when they killed our people and took our children hostage. We intend to ensure they never have the opportunity to make such a choice again. Krillax found his voice again. You cannot do this. The hegemony has existed for thousands of years. You are a species that discovered space travel less than a century ago. Cole smiled, though there was no warmth in it. Yes, we are young. We are small. We were supposed to be easy prey. Perhaps you should have studied our history more carefully before deciding to attack us. The vote was held quickly. The Council demanded an immediate ceasefire by an overwhelming majority. Human representatives abstained, as promised. The demand was transmitted to Admiral Vance, who was now deep in Vorn territory with her fleet. Her response was brief and polite. Message received. Operations will continue as planned. High Councilor Methray requested a private meeting with Ambassador Cole after the session ended. They sat together in a small chamber away from the crowds and the noise. You know what this means, Methray said quietly. You have defied the Council. There will be consequences. Cole nodded. Perhaps. But consider the alternative. If we stop now, if we accept a negotiated peace that leaves the Vorn military intact, what message does that send? That any species can attack humanity, kill our people, and then hide behind the Council when we respond? So you will make an example of them. We will ensure that no other species ever considers attacking our people to be a viable option. The galaxy will learn that humanity does not play your limited war games. When we fight to win permanently. Methray was silent for a long moment. I warned them, he said finally. Before your first delegation arrived, I warned the Council not to underestimate your species. They did not listen, and now they are afraid. Not just of what you might do to the Vorn, but of what you might do to them if they ever give you reason. Cole stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Good. Fear is a powerful teacher. Perhaps it will convince them to treat humanity with the respect that peaceful negotiation could not achieve. Methray joined him at the window. You speak of peace and respect, yet you wage total war. Is there no contradiction in that? Cole considered the question carefully before answering. We did not want this war. We came to this council seeking trade and mutual benefit. We would have been content to remain a minor species, building our civilization quietly among the stars. The Vorn took that option away from us when they killed our people. He turned to face the High Councilor directly. We are not monsters, High Councilor. We do not enjoy destruction. But we have learned, through thousands of years of painful experience, that showing weakness to predators only invites more predation. The galaxy will learn to respect humanity, one way or another. We would prefer that lesson to be taught through peaceful cooperation. But if war is the only language some species understand, then we will speak it fluently." Methrai nodded slowly. He understood now, perhaps better than any other being in the galaxy, what humanity truly was. They were not conquerors seeking empire. They were not warriors seeking glory. They were survivors shaped by a brutal history, determined to ensure that their children would never face the threats that had haunted their ancestors, and they would destroy anyone who threatened that future completely, permanently, without hesitation or mercy. The galaxy had awakened something it did not understand, and now everyone would have to live with the consequences. 7 months had passed since the Battle of Kepler. 7 months of systematic, relentless destruction that changed the galaxy forever. Admiral Linda Vance stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching another Vaughn shipyard break apart under concentrated fire. This was the 43rd military installation her fleet had destroyed. Each one had been identified by Daniel Perry's intelligence network, targeted with precision and eliminated without mercy. Major Chris Grant, her chief strategic analyst, approached with a tablet displaying updated reports. He was a quiet man who rarely showed emotion, perfect for the grim work of coordinating the dismantlement of an interstellar military power. "Admiral, that was the last operational shipyard in this sector. The Vaughn no longer have any facility capable of producing warships larger than patrol craft." Vance nodded without celebration. "Status of their remaining fleet? Approximately 60 vessels scattered across their territory. Most are hiding in civilian areas, hoping we won't target them there. Others have been abandoned by their crews. Continue systematic search operations. Any vessel capable of interstellar combat is to be destroyed." "Understood, Admiral." Throughout Vaughn space, the pattern repeated itself. Human ships appeared without warning, destroyed their targets, and moved on before any defense could be organized. Weapons factories were reduced to rubble. Communication hubs were silenced. Training facilities were eliminated. The Vaughn High Command tried everything to stop the human advance. They set ambushes that failed because human intelligence always knew where they were waiting. They fortified positions that fell within hours. They attempted to negotiate through back channels, offering increasingly desperate concessions. Admiral Vance rejected every offer without discussion. There was nothing to negotiate. This was not about territory or resources or political advantage. This was about ensuring that the Vaughn could never again threaten human lives. On the Vaughn homeworld, High General Mordak watched his empire crumble from his bunker deep beneath the capital city. He had spent his entire life building the Vaughn military into a feared fighting force. Now, in 7 months, the humans had dismantled everything his species had achieved over centuries. His communications officer approached nervously. "Hi, General. We have received another message from the human commander." Mordak closed his eyes. He knew what it would say. The humans sent the same message before every major strike. It was not a demand or a threat. It was simply a notification. What is the target? Our orbital defense platforms. All of them. Within 24 hours, every defensive satellite above the Vaughn homeworld had been destroyed. The planet that had once commanded an empire now lay exposed and vulnerable. Lieutenant Ben Torres led the communications team that delivered the final ultimatum to General Mordak. He was young for such responsibility, but Admiral Vance trusted his judgment and his steady nerves. "General Mordak," Torres said calmly, "Admiral Vance offers the following terms. All remaining Vaughn military forces will surrender unconditionally. All weapons will be destroyed. All command personnel will submit to war crimes tribunals for their role in the Kepler attack." Mordak's voice came back filled with desperation. "Unconditional surrender? We offer reparations. Territory. We will pay whatever price you demand. Please, there must be something we can negotiate. Torres shook his head, though the general could not see it. Unconditional surrender was available 7 months ago, General. Your government rejected it. Admiral Vance's position has not changed. You will surrender on her terms, or operations will continue until there is nothing left to surrender. You would destroy us completely? We would destroy your ability to wage war. Your civilians have not been harmed and will not be harmed. Your culture will survive. But the Vorn hegemony as a military power ends today, one way or another. The channel went silent for a long time. Then Mordek spoke again, his voice broken. I cannot surrender my people to humiliation. I cannot be the general who ended our empire. Torres's response was soft but final. Then you will be the general who died in its ruins. You have 1 hour to reconsider. The hour passed. No surrender came. Admiral Vance ordered the final strike. The bunker complex beneath the Vorn capital was destroyed by precision weapons that left the surrounding civilian districts intact. High General Mordak and his remaining command staff died instantly. With their leadership gone, the last resistance collapsed. Scattered Vorn military units surrendered over the following weeks. Their ships were boarded, stripped of weapons, and allowed to depart. Their soldiers were processed and released without further harm. The Vorn hegemony still existed as a political entity. Their people still lived on their worlds, maintained their culture, continued their daily lives. That they would never again pose a military threat to anyone. It would take them centuries to rebuild what the humans had destroyed. And they would rebuild knowing that if they ever threatened humanity again, the response would be even more decisive. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session one final time. The Great Chamber was quieter than anyone could remember. Representatives who had laughed at humanity's admission to the Council now sat in fearful silence. Ambassador Nathan Cole stood at the central platform. He looked tired but resolute, carrying the weight of everything his species had done and the reasons they had done it. Ambassador Zorvith spoke first. The Vorn hegemony has been reduced to a pre-spaceflight civilization. Their military has been completely destroyed. Ambassador Cole, the Council demands an explanation for this excessive response. Cole took a deep breath before answering. Ambassador, when the Vorn attacked Kepler, they killed 4,000 of our people. They took 48,000 civilians hostage, including hundreds of children. They did this believing that humanity was weak, that we would accept their aggression rather than risk confrontation. He looked around the chamber slowly. Every species in this galaxy fights limited wars. You negotiate before fighting. You negotiate during fighting. You negotiate after fighting. You accept losses and move on. You see war as a normal part of political competition. His voice hardened slightly. Humanity does not share this view. For us, war is not politics. War is a failure of politics. It means the people we were responsible for protecting are dead. It means that families have been destroyed, children have been orphaned, communities have been shattered. Once we reach that point, half measures become unacceptable. Cole paused, gathering his thoughts. We did not seek to conquer the Vorn. We did not seek their territory or their resources. We sought only to ensure that they could never again threaten our people. That goal has been achieved. Ambassador Zorvith pressed further. And if another species threatens you in the future, will you destroy them as well? We hope that will never be necessary. We hope that the galaxy has learned from the Vorn's mistake. We came to this council seeking peaceful trade and mutual respect. That offer still stands. Any species willing to treat humanity as equals, willing to respect our sovereignty and our right to exist in peace, will find us to be fair and generous partners. He looked directly at Zorvith, then at each ambassador in turn. But any species that attacks our people, that kills our children, that believes they can prey on humanity without consequence, will learn the same lesson the Vorn have learned. We do not fight wars the way you do. We do not accept losses and negotiate. We end threats, permanently. High Councilor Mithrai rose slowly from his seat. His ancient voice filled the chamber with quiet authority. Let the record show that humanity has been reclassified from minor species to sovereign power. Their military capabilities are to be recognized as equivalent to any major council member. Their territory is to be respected absolutely. He paused, looking around at his colleagues. Let the record also show a formal advisory to all council members and all species within our sphere of influence. Do not threaten the humans. Do not attack their people. Do not test their resolve. They have shown us who they are. Believe them. The vote was unanimous. Even the species who feared and resented humanity recognized the wisdom of Mithrai's words. After the session, the corridors of the council station told their own story. Ambassadors who had once looked at humans with amusement or contempt now stepped aside as the human delegation passed. Conversation stopped when humans entered rooms. Eyes followed them with a mixture of fear and respect. Nathan Cole walked beside Katie Marsh, both of them aware of the changed atmosphere around them. Do you think this will last? Marsh asked quietly. The respect, I mean? Cole considered the question carefully. Respect earned through fear is fragile, but it's a beginning. Perhaps, over time, other species will learn that we're not monsters, that we prefer peace and cooperation, that we only become dangerous when forced into it. And if they don't learn, then we remind them, as many times as necessary. They reached the human embassy, a small section of the station that now seemed to carry far more weight than its modest size suggested. Cole paused at the entrance, looking back at the vast chamber they had left behind. Somewhere out there, 48,000 civilians from Kepler were rebuilding their lives. Commander Holt's children would grow up knowing their father had died protecting them. Captain Monroe and Captain Davis would be remembered as heroes who bought time for others.